the women stuff crops up in the New Testament too. So I was wondering if perhaps we could go through some of the most problematic verses as pertains to gender relations in the New Testament and see what you have to think about them.
You're running it. Go for it.
Let's do it. Oh yeah, I guess this is my show. This is my show, but it's your Brian. It all gets a bit complicated.
And it's an honor to be here.
Yes, it is.
With you.
It's a privilege, and I'm very grateful for your time and for hosting us here as well. It's a pleasure. I think we should start perhaps with what I think is maybe the most problematic, because it's problematic on various levels, which is 1 Corinthians chapter 14, verses 34 to 35, if you're following along at home. Women should be silent in the churches, for they are not permitted to speak, but should be subordinate, as the law also says. If there is something they want to learn, let them ask their husbands at home, for it is shameful for a woman to speak in church. Thoughts?
Context. Worship services have denigrated into shouting matches, into total chaos. Why? Women are abusing the new freedom that they have, and Paul says stop it. Also, women are trying to teach and they've not gotten an education, which is tragic because they weren't allowed to go to school. But women who have an education are to teach. That's why Priscilla taught the great preacher, Apollos. So it's fascinating that Paul also writes right there in 1 Corinthians, when women pray and prophesy, they're to have their heads covered. Well, what's the matter with you, Paul? Are you schizophrenic? Don't you remember what you just said? Are you contradicting yourself? No, he's not. He's addressing two different situations, I believe, there. Chaos in worship. And as a pastor, I have to be careful that our worship services don't deteriorate into chaos, because we have some very emotionally charged people who can just rip the shreds out of a worship service with chaos and disorder. And so, no, you're not going to speak at this time because of order. But then women were allowed to pray and prophesy.
What troubles you the most? Like, what keeps you up at night the most? When a student comes up to the microphone and says, I want to ask about this, and you go, oh boy, all right, here we go. I don't know about this.
For me, it's some of the issues you've already raised. Slavery and some of the wars in the Old Testament. Those are very difficult issues for me. I don't understand them. Secondly, the problem of suffering. When I sit with parents who've lost a child due to a horrible car accident, why didn't God allow the babysitters to see the stop sign? Why did they go right through the stop sign and then hit by a pickup truck coming down at 55 miles an hour? So the problem of suffering, why does God intervene in certain situations and not in others? That's a very difficult issue. So there are a number of very difficult issues for me. And I am convinced to the root of my being that Jesus Christ is the truth, but I can't prove that. I struggle with doubt. I struggle with uncertainty. So I don't mean to communicate to you, Alex, that I've got it all nailed down, because I don't. There's tremendous uncertainty. There's tremendous doubt that I experience on a regular basis. But the overwhelming evidence in my experience of life, in what Christ has done in my life, when I was 10 years old, I was separated from my family and really got lonely in upstate New York. And for the first time in my life, I cried out from the depth of my being, Jesus, if you're really there, I want to know you, because I'm lonely right now and I hate it. And Christ gave me an overwhelming sense of his presence, his withness with me. So in spite of the doubts, in spite of the uncertainties, the reality of Christ in my life, as I observe others, as I experience life, convinces me that he is by far the best option. Let me give you one closing illustration. I was doing open air at Columbia, and a professor invited me to come into his class. He was a postdoc student from UK, and the class was a discussion on the difference between Zwingli and Calvin's view of war. And the guy was brilliant, and the discussion was off the charts amazing. So I'm walking out of the classroom with the guy, and I turned to him and say, Professor, that was amazing. Thank you so much. Now let me ask you, what are you living for? And what's the evidence that whatever it is you're living for is true? And this brilliant postdoc student from UK looks me in the face and says, I'm not a good person to ask that question of. That's scary. And yet it's been my experience too often that too many people have to answer the same way. Don't ask me that question. What am I living for, and what's the evidence that what I am living for is true? Because they have not thought through, what am I really living for? What motivates me? Why do I get up in the morning? Why do I do what I do? Why do I work the way I work? Why do I treat people the way I treat people? What's going to happen after death? They just haven't thought about it, and yet they're living for something. And the question is, what's the evidence that what you are living for is true? So in spite of my uncertainty, in spite of the fact I can't prove God exists or prove that Christ rose from the dead, the evidence is God does exist, the evidence is he really does love me, and the evidence is the resurrection took place. And therefore, I will follow the evidence to Christ. Not that it's perfect, it's not. Not that there are not problems in the Bible, there are. But gosh, when you look at the way he loves you and me, when you look at the experiences of life that you get and the experiences of others, it's real clear to me. Trust in him.
Of government.
Here's an analogy that helps me. Airplane goes down. 5 people swimming in the water, life raft that can only fit 4. How do you make the decision? Which one you're going to allow to drown and which 4 you're going to put in the life raft? And so a professor stands in front of his class and says, come on, guys, give me an answer.
Yeah.
All right? And everybody squirms. Well, are we going to let the cheerleader go in because she's really pretty? We're going to let this very intelligent one, number 1 in the class, go in because he's very intelligent. We're going to let the superstar athlete go in there. And then I guess the little nobody just drowns. And so you see, the professor says, see, it's all just relative. No, it's not all just relative, Professor. The reason that we're having a real problem right now, the reason we're confronted by an ethical dilemma right now, Professor, is because we really understand human value.
Yeah.
If humans were not valuable, it really wouldn't matter which 4 you put in the life raft and which one you let drown. It's all just chance, and we're all just glorified apes.
So how would you make that decision? Well, so suppose it's the other way around. Suppose that there are 5 people in the boat and it's sinking.
Yeah.
And
all
5 are going to die. Someone's got to get thrown out because no one's volunteering. You know, in a way, you might say, well, I just wouldn't be willing to do that, so I'll just let the boat sink. But then you're self-sacrificing, so you may as well just jump out the boat yourself. Oh, maybe that would be your answer. Maybe it would be like, well, I'll jump out of the boat then. But, you know, how would you go about trying to make that decision? Suppose you're not in the decision. You've got to dictate the terms of the decision-making. I mean, do you have, like, anything to say for a situation like that?
I sure would. Not saying that I would do it.
Right.
But I hope that I would sacrifice my life and jump out and let the other 4 live. That's what Christ calls me to do.
Okay, suppose you're
But no guarantees, obviously. I'm not claiming to be some super sacrificial guy.
Suppose you're like super glued to the boat, right? You can't jump out. It's not possible, right? But you know, you're Cliff. You're the intellectual guy with the YouTube channel. Like, people listen to you. You get to make the decision. And it's going down and no one's volunteering. I mean, you're going to die anyway. You're super glued to the thing, right? So, but you don't want to save yourself. You just know that everyone's going to die if you don't throw someone out. Or do you say, all right, everybody, I think we should all take one for the team here.
Right.
Is that probably what you'd say?
I would try and exercise leadership. But remember now, the whole reason we're facing an ethical dilemma is because we believe that there is a God who created people in his image, who loves them. People are valuable. Therefore, we just can't discard a person. But if there is no God, it's all a cosmic crapshoot.
So would that mean that